Okay, welcome everyone. I'd like to call the February 2023 meeting of the IT Advisory Committee to order. And it is 7:35, Thursday, February 16th. Welcome, everybody. I think the first order of the day, we've got a quorum here, is to review the minutes from our January meeting. And Dave, do you want to share those? Can you?
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me bring them up.
I don't know if people had a chance to take a look at them, but if not, you can give them a quick read over and approve them.
Sorry, I'm working on multiple monitors here, so I have to find everything. So just a reminder that these were the minutes Jim took in my absence.
Okay. This is a 2023-0119.
Right.
Yep. I can bring them up if you want me to.
There we go. I got it. Okay, you can all see those?
Yep.
And let me know if you need me to make it bigger.
Maybe you can scroll down. Something happened to the apostrophes.
That happened weird when I'll have to look at that because I have it as a text document that I opened in WordPad for this display. Maybe I should just share the Emacs and it'll I thought this might make things better, but apparently not. You want me to redo this?
I mean, I have it open in Google Docs and I'm not seeing that, Dave. So
Yeah, I think it's just WordPad doing something weird.
yeah.
But I will check it when I convert it to Word for the submission to the town clerk. I've never seen that happen before. If it does, I'll just fix that.
That's not showing up in my version.
I would just say you need to add an it, hoping it will be implemented by mid-year, down kind of middle of the page. Right before the Paul Roberts ad.
Got it. Yep. I'm doing this in the text.
Yeah.
Let's see if WordPad picks up the change when I save it.
Same paragraph, the first sentence. Then I think you should say this year BMLD is looking into.
Okay. There a reload button in WordPad?
I don't know.
I'm regretting doing this in WordPad. I probably should have just shared the darn Emacs window.
Is it incidents response plan or incident?
Should be incident.
I would expect that it should be incident, yeah.
So in the graph, in the paragraph starting, Charles Smart asked, I think you need to change incident. Incident.
Yep, got it.
Oh, I need to get back to him on make introductions.
Okay, we got, those are all fixed now.
Maybe just change BMLD is about 30 staff to BMLD employs about 30 staff or has about 30 staff.
I used employees.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, other than that, I think if everyone else has.
Oh, it's a
Yep.
comma after
There's still a bit more here down towards the bottom, so I think that's it.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm down at the bottom now. What,
Uh,
where is the comma missing?
Invite the chair of the light board, Stephen Kolonsky, comma, to attend an ITAC meeting to discuss ITAC's concerns.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Got it. Thanks.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Somebody want a second?
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
I did, Jonathan Green.
Okay, thanks. Want to make sure I get this.
Somebody want a second?
Make sure we spell Mark Palillo's name correctly this time.
Yes.
Was Palillo's name in this one?
It is, yes. Paul Roberts is communicating with Mark Palillo. Fifth from the bottom.
Paolillo. That's correct.
Okay, I got it right this time.
Yep.
Good. Well, actually, Jim got it right.
I believe I looked it up.
Okay, I'm going to second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna break tradition and vote for my own
I
minutes.
think, yeah, so I think it's everybody except for Jim and me, because I'm abstaining for not having been there.
I'm gonna vote for the minutes because I support my own minutes.
Okay.
I think I can vote for them now. I was sworn in.
Yes,
You can,
Yes, you can.
yes.
Yes.
absolutely.
Which brings us to our next order of business, which is to welcome our newest member, Kristen, to the committee. Kristen, welcome.
Thanks.
Yay. Very great.
Thanks.
Really thrilled to have you on board. And so did you have to go and appear before the select board, or did they just take it up in your absence?
No, they just apparently signed off on it, and I got a letter saying come to town clerk's office during these hours for swearing in. So that's what I did.
Okay. Well, first of all, we're thrilled to be back to full force here, and thrilled to have you on board. We've got a lot of work ahead of us in 2023, so it is great to have some new blood in the group. Not if there's anything wrong with the old blood, but
getting older all the time.
I don't see anybody else, any members of the public in the meeting, so I think we can skip over the public comments and questions unless anybody has anything that they've had and somebody's approached them and asked them to present something. But I think other than that, we can move on. And so the big agenda items for this meeting, I want to talk about airdrop forensics, which has to do with an issue that came up at Belmont High School, and just give you some background on what's been going on with that. We want to coordinate on the upcoming meeting with the select board, and I can kind of bring you up to date on the scheduling around that. And then we're going to discuss the town's incident response plan, which will probably take up the bulk of the meeting, okay? Okay, so on the airdrop issue, I don't know if you were aware, but there have been a couple issues, most recently a few weeks ago, in which at assemblies at Belmont High School, someone, student, faculty, it's unclear, has airdropped an image file containing racist messages, the N-word, and just kind of terrible messages to people assembled in the auditorium. Happened, I think, at the end of last year, and then it happened again a few weeks back when they were actually having a presentation by a person of color, so it was particularly outrageous. And basically, the school has not been able to identify who has done this, and as far as I can tell, has not really made an effort to identify who's done it. I think they are operating on the premise that airdrop is completely leaves no trace. And so I wrote an email, I think I copied you on it, Dave, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I saw it.
To the school committee and to Isaac Taylor and to John Phelan and Steve Mazzola, saying, FYI, airdrop, presents challenges in terms of forensics, but it is not, foolproof. And there may, in fact, be a way to work back from this and figure out who sent this thing. They were very interested in that. School committee was encouraging. Isaac reached out to me, and I basically set up a meeting with Steve to talk about what they had done to try and identify the person, which again ended up being nothing really, really for lack of expertise, but also just, they got a lot on their plate. They're short-staffed as it is. They've got other stuff to do. They can't go be playing detective. So I reached out, I used my network and just kind of reached out and got a recommendation of a firm called Magnet Forensics that really specializes in this type of stuff and has some specialized tooling, I think specifically around airdrop and kind of wireless Bluetooth type activity. And reached out to them and found out that they actually have a kind of program for nonprofits where they will give both access to their software and actually personal, expertise, consultative help pro bono for organizations that, qualify. So I relayed that to Steve, and they were definitely interested in that. And I connected them. They actually met this afternoon. I was supposed to be in that meeting, but I got pulled into a work meeting at the same time. But Steve and the woman from Magnet Forensics, Steve had some quite big, oops, sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Until he comes back, I'm aware of this.
Everybody with an iPhone probably
Okay.
got it. They did a broadcast airdrop, which means everybody got a ping that said, "Hey, someone's airdropping you something." But I guess with airdrop you can fudge the name. I don't use Apple, so I don't know a whole lot of the detail.
But if it's a picture,
But
is it a picture that got airdropped? A photo?
that's what I
Yeah.
heard. I heard that it was a picture with some racist image in it.
Yep.
I don't know the detail.
I mean, did anyone look at the metadata associated with that
I
picture?
think that's basically what Paul didn't get. That what he's saying is this company can help them do it. What I gather is that it's very easy to fudge those things, but not impossible to trace things back.
Yep.
If you have access to it.
Yeah, metadata can be stripped, forged, etc.
It could be, but if the student was, or if assuming it was a student, was just being careless and not thinking about covering his tracks or her tracks, and the metadata might still be there and still be valid.
Yeah, no, it's worth a look. I just,
Okay,
Yeah.
can people hear me now?
I can hear you,
Yes.
yeah.
Hear you.
Yes.
I'm sorry. This is, yeah, that's
It's
one of
just-
the big arguments for just friggin' doing in-person meetings is just this like, oh, your internet's unstable, and suddenly you're just like in limbo.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we
yes.
keep talking about trying to do the hybrid thing.
Yeah, we should. Maybe next month we
The
can.
weather is getting nicer. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guy. I'm not sure what happened. So yeah, you've anticipated a lot of what I wanted to say. Basically, Steve was interested, wanted to talk with the contact there before he went through the process of filling out the application for the grant, for their pro bono program. But met with her today and is putting in the application, and hopefully they will be approved. My guess is they will. And that would provide, again, access to their tooling as well as a consultant to help them with the forensics, which is actually really the most important thing, like helping them understand what to connect. Yeah, this got me doing a lot of reading on Bluetooth and airdrop forensics. And like you said, it's not straightforward, but yeah, there is reason to believe if they've got copies of the transmitted file, which I think they do, there could be EXIF data in that that could identify the sender, particularly if, as is likely, it's a high school kid who, maybe wasn't totally great about covering their tracks. My understanding too is that that AirDrop actually uses the wireless network to do the file transfer. It uses the Bluetooth to kind of do the handshake, but the file transmission happens via wireless. I'm not sure if that's true, but it could be, in which case there may be some forensics there.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've certainly seen it's probably, I don't think it's necessary because I've seen AirDrop used successfully in places where there's no Wi-Fi.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me if they did that because obviously the bandwidth's going to be better if it's available.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that the school has started kind of going back through their logs, and I'm not sure, it was unclear whether they actually had a copy of the racist message or messages that got transmitted, and whether they were looking at those. I mean, checking EXIF data is pretty easy. But they're on it. I think they're interested in doing more, and obviously it's happened at the last two assemblies. So going forward, there's a really good chance that they have another assembly, somebody's going to do the same thing again, and ideally with this relationship in place, they might be able to move pretty quickly then to actually figure out who did it. So that's that, and we'll see what happens with it. I don't know exactly what got discussed in the meeting today, but I think it was mostly just about getting them provisioned via this grant.
Paul, as part of your reading, as inappropriate and sensitive as this incident is it illegal?
No. Transmitting racist messages, not illegal in terms of our criminal laws.
I don't know, hate speech is not protected speech, is it?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
But it would definitely be a
guess-
violation of school policy.
Right. I think, that's the thing. I think it'd be a school discipline issue.
Yeah.
I suspect that the police would say that it'd be hard for them to make a criminal case out of it.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a kid.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's talking about that. I think it's much more just about, having the school be able to sort of identify a perpetrator, assuming it's a student. And of course, we're just assuming.
Probably is.
The world's a funny place, but if it were a student, being able to discipline that student, and also send a message to other kids like, hey,
Yeah.
we head stuck up our butt, and you can't just do anything on our network and get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now it's assemblies, but it's going to be sporting events and
Mhm.
concerts and graduation and God knows what else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing this brought up was just sort of, just ongoing challenge. You know, our local police department is obviously where we turn for in incidents like this. They don't really, like most local police departments, they don't really have the expertise on staff to do these types of investigations. And so, you know, I do think that, you know, it would be good to have relationships like this in place. You know, at least a short list of people we could call when cyber forensics kind of pops into the conversation. And, you know, maybe I can work with the Belmont PD, and we can work with the Belmont PD and connect them with some folks who could be of assistance to them if this stuff comes up.
Well, I was wondering if our honorary committee member, Jim Syracuse, who's a detective on the Belmont Police Department, wouldn't be the logical person to initially
Reach out to.
Yeah.
Yes, and we can, maybe what we can do, Charlie, is invite him to, you know, our next meeting and just sort of talk over this incident, and also say, you know, what are some things we can do as a community to maybe give you all the resources you need so that these cyber incidents, which are a growing share of the, you know, quote unquote crime and misbehavior going on in town, aren't just basically all kind of, you know, shown the door, like, sorry, I can't do anything for you. You know, I mean, there are, you know, yeah, so it's, I mean, it's a real problem, right? I mean, like identity theft and online scams, like they're hitting people all across this community, and yet local law enforcement can't do anything about them.
Also, this type of broad transmission of what could possibly, as Dan brought up, be construed as hate speech, you know, maybe moving towards the criminal side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know exactly what the laws are. My sense is this is probably protected speech, but I don't know. I mean, if I were the person who sent it, I wouldn't be feeling great. If it comes out, it certainly could be the case that there could be some, you know, there are hate crime laws, and it's certainly possible this could fall under that rubric. I don't know. I really don't
In
know.
any case, you know, I think if Jim Syracuse and the police department have not been informed of this, they probably would.
They have been. The schools turned to the Belmont PD.
Sure they did. Yeah.
The Belmont PD contacted Apple. Apple said basically there's nothing we can do. You know, it's airdrop.
Yeah. Yeah. You need a subpoena or something like that to get Apple to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even with
Well, in any case, getting a hold of Jim and maybe offering an invitation would be a good idea.
Yeah. I will reach out. Or do you want to reach out, Charlie? Do you have a good relationship with Jim?
If you could send me a little bit more information so that I could craft an email, and also I don't have his email address. That's
I actually, do I have an email address for him in here?
I don't know.
I think we do.
Whose email?
Yes, I do.
for?
I do actually have an email address in here for him, Charles. Hang on a second. I will chat it to you.
Sorry, whose email are we looking for?
Jim Syracuse.
Yeah, I remember this was years ago now, I guess. Time flies, but we were having trouble reaching him via email. It wasn't so
Yeah.
I would
Do you have his Belmont PD email?
That would be the one to use.
That's the one I just put in the chat. That's what we have for him.
Okay.
Of course, we know that they're bouncing everything, right? Right, Paul?
well, hopefully they stop doing that.
You know what? It's funny. I haven't checked back on what I think they got that worked out. But
Oh.
No?
No, I said, oh, that'd be pretty cool if they did.
I mean, so Chris, background on this, the Belmont PD had some insane, you know, whitelist policy that was basically like they were automatically rejecting like anything sent from Gmail. Like, I mean, it was just, I don't even know what was on the whitelist, but I mean, they were just rejecting all kinds of, and people were complaining, like, I'm trying to send an email to the Belmont PD. I got this because I was trying to communicate. I was the race director for the Apple run for many years, and I was trying to reach out to their community liaison to arrange police details, and I couldn't get anyone to respond to my emails, and like it was like
Wow.
their email was getting bounced.
I
And
think
it
Jim
turns
had
out
his hand up.
they had their own email server and this crazy, whitelist that was basically just blocking everything. And it just took them forever to, I don't know, I should actually reach out to Dave and make sure, Dave Petto, and make sure that they actually address that. 'Cause
I actually, I looked at my contact list. I even have a Gmail address for him, but I think it's probably better to use the,
you could
No,
CC the Gmail, Charlie, and just.
yeah, that's an idea. And I've got a work phone for him too, if the email doesn't work. So,
Yeah, just reach out to him and say, hey, we'd like to have you into our next meeting to talk about, this airdrop incident, kind of cyber forensics and how we might be able to, boost Belmont PD's cyber forensic capability. But so we'll see what happens with that. I'm not super hopeful they're going to be able to break this last incident wide open and, kind of lay hands on the perpetrator, but I think it's more about building up a capability so that next time this happens, we're ready. But who knows? It's possible there might be some smoking gun there somewhere.
That's what I was going to ask, Paul, is, to your knowledge, are there additional measures that the schools are putting in place for laying the groundwork for future forensics that might not be possible for this incident, but that would be helpful for future ones?
I mean, Steve talked about, some ability to block airdrop within, on the network or within certain areas. I mean, that was what he was kind of tossing around, and there was one of his one of the IT crew at the high school who was on the call with me. But I did not get the sense that they were looking to expand their forensic capability, just because I don't get the sense that they've got this skill set on board or really the time and bandwidth to be able to do cyber forensics. So
I wonder if the grant proposal includes anything around that, because maybe the vendor could help.
Yes, it's a really good idea. I do think this is something that's mostly at the high school, although maybe the middle school might be another place where you might have stuff like this pop up. But
Yeah.
You'd think let's talk about, what logging are we doing, right? Like what are we monitoring, and, what should we be monitoring to make sure that if something does go down, that we at least have visibility into it. I think that would probably be the
Well, and how do we respect people's privacy, but also do logging so that if we need to do the forensics, we can, but we're not as a matter of course, prying into people's stuff on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Well, there's
I don't even
policy
know.
elements to that as well, I would think.
There's probably other legal things around that as well. Yeah. I mean, just
Yeah.
because it's a school and being heavily regulated.
Yeah.
So I just took a quick look at Apple's documentation on AirDrop, and apparently it uses both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. But I mean, it doesn't use, it's not an or, it's an and. You have to have both turned on. And so it might be an easy thing if the school's having assembly, just turn Wi-Fi off in that room.
Right.
Also, the fact that if it uses Wi-Fi for anything, that makes it much easier to track what's going on than
That's what I thought. You'd have like a
Bluetooth,
MAC
yeah.
address or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, because I've seen it work in places like out in the African jungle, where my family were airdropping the cool pictures they were taking to each other on the truck, where we had no Wi-Fi.
Well, it might be that
maybe they had a point-to-point Wi-Fi, something that Apple is smart enough
Yeah.
to find that stuff and just do it. I don't know.
Were
Yeah,
you glamping, Dave? If you were glamping, they might have had Wi-Fi.
Well,
if you can use Wi-Fi in ad hoc mode. It's not usually something that people do, but it's an infrastructureless way of using
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. And maybe Apple's doing that. Again, I'm just going by
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm just surprised that to hear that, but it does make sense though that if it's at least and it turned on the phone, there might be a way for it to find other phones.
That's right.
And,
That's what I'm
and do
guessing.
that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, of course, I know there were a few times when the trucks were using cell stuff. They had a Wi-Fi thing, but to get through to the cell network. But there were a whole lot of places where they just turned it off because they had no cell signal.
Right.
And they told us, don't be trying to do Google Maps over here. It was actually pretty cool to do Google Maps and satellite view and actually see the where you're driving around in the jungle and thinking, oh my God, we're in the middle of the jungle. What the hell is there a signal here for?
The world's a small place.
Apparently, you
Well,
don't need to be out.
it turns out they do that because the rangers and stuff need that to have better communication than the radios they were using to deal with all the poachers and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I found an article really quickly online. It says it uses peer-to-peer Wi-Fi. It doesn't require that you actually be on a Wi-Fi network to use.
Okay, cool.
I mean, one thing I thought was, obviously just the EXIF data would probably be the low-hanging fruit. Like if you've got the image, you should definitely be looking and seeing if there's any identifying information in the image. So that's like, they don't need a forensic help to do that. They can just Google it and figure out how to read the EXIF.
Yeah, I'm worried about that because people who are not knowledgeable might leave something in there, but people who are knowledgeable could easily incriminate someone else.
Right. What I was wondering is, I'm assuming that whoever did this, like, changed their host name, so if it's AirDrop, so we know they have an iOS device, and changed the host name for their or the device name for their device prior to sending this, I would assume, so as to not identify themselves, Paul's iPhone or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if that would be something that Apple would have a record of, like, hey, can you tell me, whether you had a device geolocated in this area that changed their name to this in this time frame? Like,
So the question is, would anybody be willing to give Apple a subpoena?
Yeah.
To get them to do that, because they won't do it
They
otherwise.
won't do it without a subpoena. Yeah.
Right. And my sense is Belmont PD doesn't know exactly what to ask for.
Right.
But I mean, that may be a nonsense thing to ask for because Apple may not have that information, although I'd be surprised.
I bet they would.
I bet they would too. Right.
Yeah.
Again, if the police aren't involved, there's not going to be any subpoenas.
Yeah.
Let's have Jim in and we can have a conversation with them and they can put in a subpoena and maybe try and get.
But the question is, can you do that if there's not probable cause for an actual crime? Like if this is like a really, if it is protected speech, right? Which I think it might be, right? But like leaving that open, like then the police department can't really justify a subpoena, can they?
No,
we leave that to them.
Yeah.
We're not. I'm not a lawyer anyway.
Yeah, you might need a legal consult on this, Kristen, to be like, is this something that could be prosecutable? Because if it isn't, then you're right. Apple's gonna be.
But I think it is certainly worth the school at least giving it a shot and seeing what they can find, and doing an internal disciplinary investigation and seeing, because that leaves all that other stuff out there. I mean, I would hope they'd be smart about it, and if they think they've got it down to somebody, that they talk to that somebody and not do it like in public until right.
I'm wondering if the device name logged in the router that routes the traffic in the IP network.
I don't know.
So you might be able to look to see if the same IP address was living under two different names if you had the logs for that.
Yep.
Oh,
Or the MAC address.
If it's using
MAC address is better.
if the Wi, sorry, this is going down a rat hole, but
Yeah.
if the Wi-Fi is in ad hoc
I stopped typing, by the way. The recording will have to capture this one.
it'll use a link local address, and there won't be any, unless it's tied to the MAC, it's going to be really hard to trace. So,
But if they change their device name to disguise it, that might have also changed it, even if they weren't sending things in a peer mode. They might have visited something else on the VHS network with that device name.
Right.
Who knows?
so just looking for that other Steve Mazzola iPod,
Yeah.
This is probably a little controversial, but I'm curious as to whether there are any like social justice minded students at the high school who actually know how to do this kind of forensics a little bit better than the school officials do. It's entirely possible.
It is possible, but they would need to get access to like.
Yeah.
And the IT group is not going to turn that over to students for obvious reasons. But yeah. I mean, it's I do think one thing I said is I do think it's important that the school pursue it and look into it and not just kind of throw their hands up and say, oh well, if you want to bomb people with racist messages at Belmont High, there's nothing we can do about it. So, I think they are doing that. And again, I think it is mostly about preparing them for the next time this happens, because it almost certainly will happen again.
Yeah.
One other approach, I
Uh-huh.
think, can you hear me? Looking at my phone, looks like the default for AirDrop is for contacts only.
yes.
And so if you had enough students who were willing to who had that setting turned on, at set at contacts only, you take a list of all their contacts and you do that with 10, 15, however many students you have, you probably get down to a small number of one, people who are contacts of all those students.
So I thought that occurred to me as well, Jonathan. I guess the question is, when it's doing contact matching, what is it using to determine whether you're a known contact? Is it the device name, in which case that wouldn't align, or is it something more subtle that would be independent of what you decided to name your iOS device? And it wasn't, I saw that as well and was like, oh, that's something you could do, but it wasn't clear to me that, like, oh, okay, if I'm even seeing this, then we already know there's a short list of people this is, which is people who are contacts of mine. And then you could do kind of process of elimination, kind of a Venn diagram. But
Hopefully they're doing something intelligent with